Section 1 is roll call. Caitlin, if we could have roll call.
Schichtel,
Here.
Warner,
Here.
Tenza,
Here.
Theobald, Brown,
Here.
Hamner,
Here.
Solomon,
Here.
Pesha, Swiger,
Here.
Johnson.
All right, thank you. We have quorum. Section 2, approval of the agenda. If we could have a motion and support to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Theobald, Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Pesha, Swiger,
Yes.
Johnson, Schichtel,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Tenza.
Yes.
Section 3, approval of the minutes of August 20th, 2025. If I could have a motion and support on that, please.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Brown,
Yes.
Hamner,
Yes.
Solomon,
Yes.
Pesha, Swiger,
Yes.
Johnson, Schichtel,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Tenza,
Yes.
Theobald.
All right, thank you. Section 4 is public comment. This is a session with no open dialogue. You may address the board with your comments, and each person has 3 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me a platform to speak to my community. I'd like to use this opportunity to share a little bit about my day yesterday at Cadillac Vets Serving Vets Farmers Market. First, I'd like to thank Teresa Franklin, Roger Bandine, and Nancy Johnson for giving me a place to call home at Cadillac Vets Serving Vets Park. I'd like to thank Darcy Richardson Reed for repeatedly sharing Vets Serving Vets Park information on Facebook when they first started their Saturday market 2 years ago. It's because of you I found a place that feels like home to me in my community. I was proud of my community yesterday. 2 separate groups who have never worked together before came together as one. I vend at Vets Serving Vets during the regular season, which ended Labor Day weekend. I went down to set up my free Build-A-Bucket station so I could spend the day interacting with children. Those of you who know me in my community know how much I love working with our local children. I'd like Mr. Elliot Gurdon to know that not one of the vendors from the downtown market supported Mary's claim that the protesters were the issue. Some even shared their pictures taken at market that day to let me make my own decision, as they knew I was not present. I'd like R.J. Larkin to know that I see you were banned from many local forums the same day I was. I am outraged that one of our memorial mayor candidates has been silenced in our community. Am I the only one disappointed in this? Our local forums are driving the narrative in this community, and that is a huge problem. I endorse R.J. Larkin for mayor simply because Mary did not. I will not endorse any incumbent running. I'm disappointed in our local press. There were none at Vets Serving Vets Market yesterday. I hope I'm not the only one disappointed in this. Our local press has not reached out to Teresa at all. I'm also disappointed in State Representative Michelle Hoytinga. Teresa invited her to our market in her efforts to help this community heal. She was a no-show as well. I'd like to remind my community that everyone has the right to their opinion, even Mary. I have no hate in my heart for Mary. That is how I know God is here today. Please stand together to make this town one we can all be proud of. I am not proud now. Do better, Cadillac. Thank you for giving me this platform. I've been banned on local forums, so this is where I will speak moving forward.
Beth, could you state your name and where you live, you reside?
Oh, I thought I did that. My apologies. Beth Ann Gould. I live in Herring Township. And what else do I need to tell you? Anything?
Perfect.
That's it? Thank you for giving me a safe place.
Any other public comments today? Okay, we'll move on. Section 5 is a review of old action items. Item A is the well closure and well decommission update in the LDFA area. Jeff?
Yes, as you guys know, last month I reported that all the wells, the 3 homes that had wells, 2 of them were hooked up to city water. The third was demolished. The home. Those wells have been pulled also and capped. There was some concern that there was some industries out in the area that maybe have wells still. I did go on Well Logic. I did find 2 industries that maybe had wells. I sent my crew out to those 2 industries. The one industry did not even know they had a well. Did have no recollection, nothing. The other one has a jet pump in their facility. That's a pump, above ground pump. It is capped off, has a cap on it, and the electric, they had installed a new a panel there, and it's not hooked up to electric at all. And again, the piping is disconnected. The first industry, again, did not know they had one, doesn't know where it is, has no records of it. The second one has the pump, but again, that's decommissioned. It's not usable. So I'd like to report that. I don't know if we want to do more investigation to see if we can find these wells out there, but both of these industries are on city water. Both of them are on city sewer. So as far as the public goes, they're not getting any water. And I did not know if they were using the existing wells for irrigation, but they're both not in service. So I don't know if the board wants me to look more into that or if we're good on that. Just looking for kind of direction on that.
Anyone have any thoughts on that? I'm not an expert on the ordinance, and I'm not an expert on what the EPA has asked, but I believe it was just that private wells were stopped and decommissioned.
It is,
and they're
and
using city municipal water. And the 3 areas that were of concern, 2 of them, we've done those, and the other one, it was the building is no longer being used. So these other 2, I don't feel like, it sounds like we've done our due diligence to make sure that they're not being used for drinking water. If somebody disagrees with me, I think we can call this issue completed.
I guess I would just ask, you've given a verbal report, and I appreciate it. It sounds like you've taken good measures, but if we could just get some documentation from you or Marcus, say, we believe we're in compliance with our ordinance.
I guess when I read the ordinance, it does say they would be responsible in the area to remove wells. So we could go there and send them a letter, and we, the city, could send them a letter saying, if you do have a well, please have it removed and plugged. And then since they don't know if they have a well, I mean, even the one that had the pump in the building does not know where his well is. So I think they're new owners in that. So we could just leave it there, send them a letter,
I mean, there's gonna be always a bit of gray area in every ordinance action, but just some written statement from you or Marcus or Mike says, we got this covered. And then I think we can put the issue to bed.
Okay.
And
We will.
something other than a verbal report.
Okay. No problem. I will, I think the city will probably send out letters to those 2 entities, say, Well Logic says you have a well, please abandon it, if it's still there, and if not, send us back that there's no well. So,
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you for the work on that, Jeff. Item B, update on the completion of well survey and implementation of quarterly testing. Again.
I'm going to hit this a little bit, but we do have a speaker, Molly Sherwood from Fleece and Vanderbrink, and she'll probably hit more on it when we get down to her section. But we have completed the well survey. We have submitted the 5 wells that we could not find, the monitoring wells. We have submitted to the EPA different wells that we think will be able to work in the short run, and they are evaluating 3 of them, I think, and 2 of them they have some questions on. I'll let Molly answer that, but we are really close to quarterly testing now. We're getting really close. I would assume by the end of this week we might get the go-ahead by EPA that we can go ahead with our quarterly testing. So we are extremely close. But I'll let Molly get into the weeds on that one when we get to that section.
Okay, so I guess we'll touch base on that later in the agenda. Item C, under Section 5, update on well flow project S1 and S2 added to the I-5 carbon filter.
Yes, we received written confirmation from Catherine that we can proceed with this and we can actually reroute those 2 flows into the carbon filter. We received that, I think, last week. The okay to go ahead. With that, there is a provision that we're going to have to do tower influent PFAS monitoring and tower effluent PFAS monitoring monthly. Once a month, we'll have to take one of what's going in and what's going out. She did indicate that after we have a good baseline, we could probably slow down the influent testing because that should be pretty much the same, but she definitely wants us on the effluent of the carbon to make sure that there is no breakthrough of the PFAS there. So in order for us to do this project, I just want to make the board aware we will incur a little bit more testing cost for the rerouting, but that's the water coming into the carbon and the water going out of the carbon. Will have some additional costs, but we will start that project probably next month in October. I got to get my staff together and find some time, but we will start that and we will be rerouting that.
Where's the funds coming out of for that work?
What?
Where's the funding coming from that work?
Well, that's a good one. We're gonna use city staff, so it'd probably be out of out of either sewer, or we might charge the LDFA some, but it would be the funding would be our local staff will be doing the work. So it's just our hourly wage, and then the parts. So.
Okay.
And then maybe an estimated completion time, just not that we hold you accountable, but what are you thinking this project would take? And if you want to answer
If
that.
the piping is like it indicates on the plans, it would be a day, maybe 2 days to complete. So I'd say, if I can get it done next month, if the piping's like they indicate. If it's different, obviously installation sometimes isn't what's on the plans, then it could take longer.
Fair enough.
So,
Appreciate that.
yep.
Okay.
And Jeff, do we still have a used carbon filter? Is that still on
Yep.
the table as
Yep, we still got to get rid of that, the used carbon, and get new carbon in, yes. So I'll be working on that also, so.
Okay. Brings us to Section 6, groundwater treatment plant operations update. Jeff?
Very simple update. Last month, we had 63 million gallons of water, 63.12 million gallons of water that we treated. We removed 7.79 pounds of VOC in the month. And year to date, we've removed 64 pounds of VOCs from the stripping towers from the groundwater we treated. We had no extra maintenance. We had no extra work done at the site other than us doing the monitoring well, finding the monitoring wells and stuff like that, which we've already reported. So the actual groundwater was pretty simple last month. So we're on track to have less than 100 pounds of VOCs removed in a whole year. We're on track to be, again, 700, 800 million gallons of treated water. So we're really getting down to the, we're not removing very much because there's not a lot left that we're bringing in. So that's good, it's good news.
The month prior, we were at 7.1 pounds, so it looks like we've been trending at about a little over 7 pounds.
Yep.
Anybody else have any comments or suggestions? Good. Okay, brings us to section 7, update on the progress of Geosyntec Environmental Consulting, the optimization services. Back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, again, Geosyntec has all of our data that they requested. They haven't requested any more. I do believe, I know they're waiting on our quarterly testing. Quarterly testing is the big thing that's holding them up before they can start moving on this. Almost everything we have is waiting on the quarterly testing. So not a big update on them other than them having all the information and waiting on quarterly testing before they can go. When they do, when we do our quarterly testing and we get these results, we will send that to them, and then at that point, we'll probably schedule a tour for them to have at the facility. I know we've been waiting for them to come talk to us, but there's really, nothing they can do until they get some quarterly sampling, so they can plug in and get some modeling going. So.
Well, I appreciate the prioritization on this issue, Jeff. I mean, obviously, we need the quarterly testing to be compliant to the EPA. Obviously need to meet the shelf statement on the 5-year review, and obviously it's important for Geosyntec to move on. So thank you so much for pushing us through. That brings us to section 8, update on the progress of Flesch and Vanderbrink's environmental consulting, the monitoring plans, quality management plan, institutional control implementation and insurance plan, timing of well surveys, as well as the overall EPA compliance.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our consultant, Molly Sherwood, and she'll be giving a presentation on a bunch of that stuff. So,
Thank you all very much for having me here. Thank you, Jeff.
Yep.
I've met some of you before, not all of you, so I appreciate the opportunity to get to see you face to face. I've been working on this project for a while now, working on the monitoring aspect of the site. We're really, really close to being where we need to be to get out and do the first round of monitoring. It's been a lot of documentation required by EPA. The current status is we've submitted sampling plans. EPA reviewed them. They then sent them to Eagle. Eagle reviewed them. That took a couple of months to get all of the reviews in, and we now have the recommendations that Eagle and EPA have for monitoring. The challenge that was presented was that where we initially thought we would be collecting samples and prepared for, Eagle and EPA have come back and said they want to expand that network of monitoring. We can do that as long as the LDFA is comfortable with it, and with the added expense of adding additional monitoring points and increasing the amount of monitoring that's being done. But that requires updates to a lot of the documentation, and it requires a revision of the monitoring plan that was originally submitted. So we're in the process of doing that revision right now. My recommendation moving forward is that we complete the first round of sampling as it was initially proposed, because we have everything in place to do that. That will just be a matter of Catherine from EPA giving us her blessing to go ahead and do the sampling. We've expressed to her many, many times how important it is to get out there and get the first round of sampling done. Following that first round of sampling, we'll have additional information. We can then go about making changes to the monitoring network, which will include adding additional wells, maybe taking some wells out of the monitoring network that are far outside the current plume area, bringing it in closer and really getting a thorough picture of what is currently going on with the site. Eagle and EPA have stressed the importance of reevaluating groundwater flow because that hasn't been done since the 8th Street well field was closed. Granted, the well field was drawing from a deeper aquifer, but there is potentially connections that could alter the flow of groundwater to some degree. So that's going to take some additional work. They would like to evaluate groundwater for the risk of vapor intrusion because of volatile organics being present, and that was not in the original plan that was proposed. They have greatly expanded the number of wells that EPA originally proposed for PFAS sampling. So EPA had requested that we sample 5 wells for PFAS, but the recommendation now is that we sample the majority of the wells for PFAS. So that's a change. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, but it increases the scope of work. It increases the cost. They've expressed a desire to do extensive VOC analysis and 1,4-dioxane analysis, which is part of the VOC scan, to do that over a period of 4 quarters. Instead of just collecting things on an annual basis, collect more samples on a quarterly basis to provide for any seasonal changes in contaminant concentrations. These are all reasonable recommendations for evaluating the site. And ultimately what it comes down to is I think they really want to take a fresh look at the site and kind of start from scratch in a sense and really get some good baseline data of where we are, because there's been the lag in data and also because the site has changed since it was last sampled more than five years ago and going back. The sampling plan that was what was in place 5 years ago was for a different site than we probably have today, because it was developed early in the process when the plume was much larger.
Molly, the biggest changes are being proposed by Eagle.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, and that's part of the process
Mm-hmm.
we have to live with.
Yes.
And it's good to live with. It's having their eyes on this keeps us all heading in the right direction,
Mm-hmm.
protective of human health and the environment.
Absolutely.
It was my understanding that I looked through the EPA 5-year review,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, first of all, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it, and not appearing in virtual in Teams meeting and here in person. I appreciate that greatly. If in reading the 5-year review, it seemed to me that EPA was calling for a revision in the monitoring, in the well monitoring plan, because some wells have been damaged,
Yes.
but that is still the case. There's some wells that have been damaged over the years.
Yes.
But Eagle is saying, yeah, we recognize those damaged wells, but we also want more wells included into the plan.
Correct.
So that really you can't foresee their comments and expanding the number of wells.
Right.
And that waiting for their comments to come in, I understand better why there's a delay now than I did before your report.
Yeah. Yes. It's speaking to the expansion of the well network. I agree that it makes sense to reevaluate the monitoring plan and to make some changes to it. So that makes complete sense to me. I don't have any problems with any of the EPA or Eagle comments in what they're saying and the science behind it. It all makes sense. So my biggest concern right now is getting out there and getting that first round of data as soon as we can and not delay any longer than necessary. A revision of the monitoring plan is not something that we can do overnight necessarily. We could call for additional wells to be sampled. And if this group would like us to do that, we can go ahead and write that into the plan this week and say we're going to sample. We're not sampling these 42 wells, we're sampling this other group of wells. We've already proposed replacement wells for the ones that were not accessible. We had one of our technicians on site walking the well field and looking at wells, and we've got replacements in mind for those that have been approved by EPA. We're going to continue to look for better replacements for some of those because in some cases the monitoring wells were near an extraction well. And the difference between a monitoring well and an extraction well has to do with how the water's getting into the well itself. So a monitoring well is passive. It's just a pipe in the ground. Typically they're 2 inches in diameter, sometimes 4. They're not very big. And the screen is about usually 5 feet, sometimes only 3 feet, the screened area where the water can get into that pipe. An extraction well is constructed differently because it's designed to efficiently pull as much water out of the ground as possible. So the extraction wells are 8 inches in diameter. They're pumped continually. And the screen length is 15, sometimes 20 feet. And what that does to the water that's being pulled into that well is it tends to dilute the contaminants. If you have contaminants at this one level in the ground and you're pulling from this much, that little bit that's getting pulled into the well is diluted by all that other clean water above and below it, is really what it comes down to. So when we're doing extraction, our goal is volume. When we're doing monitoring, our goal is precision. So the two aren't really the same thing. You can take samples from extraction wells, but it doesn't give you a clear picture of exactly what the concentration of the contamination is. So in some of the cases, we have extraction wells very close to monitoring wells. And in talking to Catherine this week, we agreed that it might make more sense to select a monitoring well that's a little farther away rather than an extraction well right next door, because we'll get better data. It won't be exactly in the same location as the well that was damaged, but it will be more useful data rather than sampling from extraction wells.
So what kind of cone of depression do you have with your extraction wells? You know, how far out does that?
I don't have that information. Yeah, sorry, I don't.
Mike, I think that's gonna vary based on, well, you know this better than I do. It varies on, our extraction wells range from 15 gallons per minute to over 100, so it's gonna vary.
But if we have test wells fairly close, it's probably gonna be impacted or potentially impacted. The other question I had, you mentioned seasonal changes. Do you care to speculate on why that might be?
It's kind of a standard practice in groundwater sampling to sample over 4 seasons. In Michigan, and in Michigan, our groundwater fluctuates with the seasons. So that fluctuation will cause the water to rise and fall within the aquifer. In the case of some contaminants, if there's contamination in the soil right at the top of the water table, that movement of water up and down within the aquifer can sort of wash those contaminants out throughout the seasons. The contaminants, the VOCs that you have on site here, however, chlorinated compounds, those tend to reside deeper in the aquifer. They don't float on top. They're sinkers, as we call them. So they're down lower. But the same thing kind of applies. There are fluctuations in the water table. There's fluctuations in because the water table fluctuates, there can be fluctuations in the movement of water laterally through the aquifer as well. And that can just affect contaminant concentrations and locations and things like that. So it's a general good practice to sample things over 4 quarters, particularly when you're trying to get an initial characterization of what's there.
Molly, Would they change that sampling after the 4 quarters? Would they modify it?
We can say that we're going to do that. That can be written into the sampling plan, that we'll do 4 quarters and then reevaluate, which is pretty common.
So the timing of this first quarterly testing has been really important to the board, and I think last meeting or the meeting before, we voted to proceed with less wells.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you already have the approval from the board, unless we need to re-vote on something. I thought we already voted, that you have full permission from the board to try to expedite this process back into place.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're all on the same page on that, I really
Okay.
appreciate the information, because I helped my learning curve. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Wonderful. I will do that. That's what I have been working on as far as the revisions to the plan, and I was going through it this morning, and I think everything is complete we just need to update a couple of drawings, which will happen this week, and then it should be good to go in. I will also be communicating with Catherine and Jeff as to what our expectation is for getting this approved and being able to turn around and get the sampling going and scheduled. We're ready to go on our end, so as soon as we get that okay, we can be here.
Is there a chance they would say no? That
Yes.
you have to go quarterly. So even despite our board action, they could just say delay that to
Yeah,
until the plan is approved with quarterly.
yeah, and they could turn around and say, we asked you to do all this, to revise the monitoring plan, and we're not going to okay it until you do. And they've also, part of the other issue has to do with the well survey. They've talked about sampling all available monitoring wells. We've surveyed the wells that are in the monitoring plan, and we know what we have there and what's accessible and the ones that were not accessible. But if they want to add additional wells, I don't know how thorough a survey has been done of all those other wells that weren't included in the monitoring plan. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of wells out there, and if they want us to sample everything, then that's a big lift to get everything up and ready to go.
Worst case, say we don't get this request, and then, we're asking to go forward with fewer wells, which in my mind is still good science and still good. I mean, there's a long list of things that are waiting for a sampling plan, including the optimization plan. In my mind, though, the biggest item is, we are pulling the contaminants from the groundwater, we're treating it. Our NPDES permit levels are within compliance, but we're not as effective as we can be in communicating risk to the public. And
Yes.
that's one of our prime missions is, as the plume gotten bigger, smaller, and without a sampling plan, we really can't go forward. I think if they tell you no, and I rarely want to publicly disagree with EPA and Eagle, but if they do tell us no, I think they're letting the perfect become the enemy of the good, and we need to start with good.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been in practice of sampling for 4 years. Let's start with good. That's a really excellent starting point in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Worst case, though, how long? I mean, do you have an idea if they really wanted to go through with the full measures? How long could we be before we start sampling?
I could, pretty much hit it full time over the next couple of weeks and try to crank something out. Realistically, it's just a matter of how it's something that can be done. But I feel, like you said, you put it perfectly. Let's go with good, and then worry about improving. And I think it makes the most sense to start with the sampling network that we have, sample it, and then move forward. If they want us to increase frequency of VOCs, that's easy to do. We have the wells to do it. But if they want to start adding to that network, it's going to take a little time to get all the pieces in place. So I really don't think we're going to get a lot of pushback because we really have expressed how important this is.
We have to get a start.
We have to get going. Yeah.
Thank you, Molly. I was concerned that we were, and some people describe this as dilly-dallying, and I think it's more, as usual, working with EPA and Eagle is pretty complicated, and I don't think you are, and I appreciate you being here. I do think, even though we have not sampled for a long time, Jeff, you mentioned something to me yesterday. I mean, the extraction wells are still working. The treatment systems are still working.
Mm-hmm.
The public should take confidence in that the treatment systems are working as planned. The VOC numbers year to year continue to go down. We're still lowering that overall impact of VOCs, and chromium is non-detect, so that part of our system is, the core part of our system is working. We just got to get through the, the administrative part.
Yes.
As best as we can.
Right.
If I may, Brian, also, to dovetail on that, we do test the water coming in as a combined unit coming into the treatment facility, and we do test it going out into the river. So there is testing going on. The testing that you need to do all your permits, all your discharge has been continuous. It's just the monitoring is how well are we doing out in the field. That's what the monitoring is doing, and that's what we are missing is how well are we doing out in the field. But what we're bringing into the plant is tested. What we're going out to the river is tested. It's just we don't know how much we've done because we don't have that field data.
And I mean, I don't want to minimize the issue of the compliance testing at all. But I want to tell the full story here. That is it a fair statement that year to year, every year we see less and less VOCs coming into the system?
Yes.
So the system is working well as designed.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you look, and I'm sure you've all looked at the 5-year review that just came out, and in the back of that there are some diagrams showing contaminant, like the plume size, and it's mapped year to year to year. Every year that plume gets smaller, and that's a testament to the work that's being done. The latest plumes are shown are 2021. So I think when we go out and do the sampling this year, hopefully we're going to see a big jump for the 2025 numbers, and I would expect that because the system has been successful up to this point. But you really need to have the data to support it.
Appreciate your sense of urgency. That's just the main thing I wanted to communicate that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Ryan, if we're moving from good to perfect in our best case scenario, what would be the increased cost to monitoring all wells and quarterly testing? I mean, I do think as a board, like, that's gonna be something we're gonna need to discuss, right? It sounds like it would be quite costly.
We'll have to bridge that when we get the numbers for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think
Is
anybody
that-
has those numbers today.
Is that something that you can estimate for the
We
board at some
can
point?
estimate.
'Cause-
I sent you some numbers, Jeff, like last month, I think, just sort of back of napkin calculations. I don't have it in front of me, so this is, don't hold me to this. But from our standpoint, and based on our contract that we have for sampling and laboratory expenses, it would roughly double the cost. I want to say it's somewhere in.
I don't remember. You're gonna look. I can get that to the board though after
Yeah,
the meeting.
so it would roughly double the cost is what I came up with. And most of that expense, a large part of that expense, is the additional analytical cost, particularly when it comes to analyzing PFAS, which is an expensive test. Adding more dioxane sampling is not expensive. 1,4-dioxane is analyzed using the same VOC scan that that you're already doing. It does have to go to a specific laboratory in Green Bay, Wisconsin, in order to achieve the very, very low detection limit for 4,1,4-dioxane that EPA requires. But that's a relatively easy scan. But PFAS is expensive to analyze. And so it was one thing to analyze 5 samples, but if we have to analyze 20 samples for PFAS, that's a big jump in cost.
That's a good question, Jennifer. Jennifer, I think we do need to be aware of it. I mean, but as Molly reported, these changes are being recommended by Eagle.
Yeah,
And
I'm just saying, for planning purposes.
yes, certainly,
You're talking about assessments and things.
certainly. That would be good to know. Do you have a sense of the scale of our analytical costs? Is it
Not
50,
off the top of my
100?
head,
Okay.
but yeah, for analyzing a sample, if you're doing hex chrome, I think it's around, might be $60 a sample. VOCs might be 150, 130. PFAS might be 200 or 250 per sample.
Jeff, in that light, could we, I think one way to get a sense of this is go back to our 2020 when the LDFA was completing a full sampling plan. That number has to be known and
Yeah, and we
get a
can,
rough estimate of that.
I can do that, but that was pre-COVID or during COVID. The prices have spiked on a lot of the stuff since COVID. So
Really?
that's just because everything has gotten more.
Shocking.
Yeah. I hate to say it. So we can get a number, but I wouldn't trust that number
Okay.
with post-COVID
Okay.
costs.
current numbers should be available because we have our sampling contract for one thing, for F&V to do the sampling. The laboratory can provide their cost per sample for the analytical work. So really that's what it comes down to. It's the collection of the samples and analyzing the samples.
Well,
So
you have a contract for sampling with the LDFA present day,
mhm.
and what is that number?
34,000?
32?
Between 32 and 35,000 a year for 4 quarters.
Is that a good baseline, Molly?
That's reasonable, depending on the increase in sampling. If there are significantly more wells, it could be more expensive for sampling. That's based on the current sampling plan and the number of wells that we're sampling.
So you said it could double, so
The doubling is
30 to 50?
primarily in the cost of analytical. That's really what's driving up the cost. If you're doing that much of an increase in sampling, that you're adding that many parameters, that many wells for PFAS for one, going from 5 wells to 20 or 40 wells, if you go from 5 wells to 40 wells at $250 a pop, that's a big increase. Increasing that many wells could add a day of sampling to sample that many more wells, things like that.
So, obviously we want to comply with what the EPA and Eagle wants, but at the same time, we want to do a little pushback to say, do we need 40 wells? Can we just add 20 wells instead? We're at 5. Can we go to so I think right now on the first round we just want to sample. Get us sampling, but then we're going to have to do a little bit of pushback to say, are all these necessary? Can we do it for 2 quarters and then get the results and not do it after that? What can we do to mitigate some of this cost long term? Because I don't know if we need to do it over and over and over. If we're getting non-detect in PFAS sampling, why are we sampling this well over and over and over again? At a certain point you'd say it's non-detect. Let's move on. So
I agree, Jeff. I'm just speaking, this is just me, it's not the rest of the board. If we push back, that's logical, fair. If we push back, I would say let's push back on the duration. But if they want more PFAS wells, or I think in light of the fact that we've missed 4 years, I kind of understand why they want to go more than what we think is necessary. But I think in the pushback area is if we're getting 90 texts, the duration should not go beyond your first set of 4 quarters, and that's reasonable. But
And we'll have
I'd like to. The more we push back, the more
It's delayed.
we kick the can.
So that's the balance is
So-
how much, you know.
So in my view, and this is just my view, we push back on the duration. And then I think we've got a very solid point in saying you're defeating the good here with the perfect.
Right.
We can do cover a lot of ground. We can cover a lot of, if you give us a quarter to get these wells in place as you see fit, we can do that in a quarter, but let's move forward with the good.
Agreed.
All right, I think we agree on that. All right, thank you for your time. I really
Very
appreciate
welcome.
you making the trip.
And at any time, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or things come up. You can reach out to me directly or through Jeff. I'm happy to answer questions and make sure you have all the information you need.
Beautiful. Thank you, Molly.
Very welcome.
Okay, that brings us to the treasurer's report. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, thank you. Jennifer, thank you. It's really critical to have board input on the current, but we have to have some vision on expenses, and obviously, we took time to do a budget, so I appreciate the openness on that. I'll be concise. Utility expenses, Owen and I put these in because consumers is the dominant expense. We've had discussion on that in the past, don't need to do that. But in your spreadsheet, we put utility all under. And so, with that said, there's miscellaneous expenses for contracted services and maintenance. Well, if there's ever questions on that, I'm sure Jeff or Owen can finitely tell us what that is, but it's at this point minuscule. Most important thing, which we disclosed last month, is the transfer of the $429,000. Owen thinks that'll clear the auditors this month, and so that'll show up in the first quarter as revenue. So glad to have some clarity in that. We've kind of been pushing on that for a long time, so that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Any other quick comments on this before we move on?
Mr. Tenzin, help me understand, we operate on a June to June budget?
July
July.
to June 30.
So we're 2 months into the.
We're 8 weeks in of reporting.
Thank you. It's not, I'm not used to the, and other budget terms other than calendar.
Welcome to the club.
You sure do.
Section 10 is the update on the newest EPA 5-year review, and obviously this is a long report, so maybe a concise update on the important stuff from Mr. Dietland.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I was looking at it last night again. The report, it's a report of what we've done in the last 5 years, and they do highlight that we have not sampled in the last 5 years. They indicate there was some communication errors between us and our sampler. Us and Eagle maybe a little bit. The miscommunications, as we all know, our sampler died. And then it was a year or two later that he was a one-man show, we found out. What I wish they would have also indicated, there was some miscommunications between the city and EPA. EPA in itself had a person retired. They had that person replaced. That was our contact, who never reached out, never contacted us in the 2 years that they worked there. And then we got Catherine and we were back in contact. So it's not, that part of the report I didn't think they went far enough to say, what all caused our problems. And a lot of it's us, but some of it is also them. The big takeaway I take from reading that is the quarterly sampling. They want us to start sampling again. I don't know if you guys have read the report. They do say we've ran the system well. It's well maintained. They do say that we're, sampling for our permits correctly, that all that's going on, but they do really hit hard that we need to do the quarterly sampling. They do hit that once we start with the quarterly sampling, we got to go out and get our institutional controls better, make sure that we're adhering to them, make sure that we go out there and we make sure nobody has wells and pumps and everything in the area. They did bring up the 3 homes that we did find out there that were on our, in the area that should be disconnected, which are disconnected and abandoned now. That was all in the report. They did bring up, I know there is an issue out there currently where some people think all the wells in the city of Cadillac should have been abandoned. And they do bring it up that was only the wells in the LDFA area they were talking about. So they did clarify that also in the 5-year report. As Molly said, the graphs in the back, the modeling they have, does quite clearly show the shrinking of the contamination areas. The other part is I talked to Catherine about the recommendations they have. I said, what their recommendations, what does that mean? And then she's like, well, we'd like you to do them. And I said, well, what if we don't do them? There's nothing there. They don't do anything bad to you if you don't do them. What does happen is when you go to shut down the site, they'll ask you if you did those, and if you haven't done those, they will not allow you to shut down the site. So even though they're not forcing us to do them, it's on it behooves us to go and do the 1,4-dioxane. It behooves us to do the PFAS testing. That's what they said before on the shutdown of the Northern Air site is, have you tested for PFAS? That's what started our whole PFAS thing here was we want to shut down the Northern Air Superfund site. In order for us to do that, we have to do the PFAS testing. They will not allow us to shut it down. And so they make it a recommendation, but they don't say you have to do that. So we are going through, we're going to do their recommendations because we do want to shut down stuff. We do want, they had indicated in the report that we are looking at shutting down wells, maybe the shallow wells. And obviously we have to do our testing, a little bit of testing, but there might be wells that we decide that we no longer need for the cleanup, and we can shut those down. So we're getting to the point that overall, I thought it was a good report. It showed our failures. It did. If you guys have specific questions on it, I can maybe answer those or get back to you with the answers. But I hope you all read it. It's only 30 pages, the narrative, then all the diagrams and everything that you can cross-reference is the other 150 pages. So, but
I appreciate that we're working on the prioritization of the shell statements, that the institutional controls, that we're getting these quarterly testings going, and that all the recommendations that we can put an action plan together once we're back online. So
right.
Thank you for putting that in the right order, and I think together we can put that action plan together.
So any questions, or I'd like to do a poll on who all read it. No, I'm just teasing, but it's good nighttime reading. So
Well, thank you for distributing it, Jeff,
Yep.
to City Council, because that was on our checklist. I really appreciate
Yep, and everybody has it. So
All right, that brings us to section 11, update on air quality testing, and we talked about this, so maybe just a brief update of any.
yep, I called Mike Jury on this again. Last time we met, we had some questions 2 times ago about whether we might be putting PFAS up into the air. One of the things, if we have demisters, you know that takes care of the big droplets. Last report I reported that last meeting I reported we do have demisters on them. The question was posed to me: can we get the confirmation from Mike Jury? You know, can we get confirmation that this is taking care of that? And I did call him. I did have a good conversation with him, and he said for our levels and with the demisters on, that would take care of it. But he did suggest that we could go to the air quality division, called the air quality division, and they do have numbers of, and I haven't done this, they do have numbers of what is permissible to discharge for the PFAS chemicals for a site, you know, just a site. And he said he believes that our incoming numbers would be lower than what is permissible to discharge. So what's coming in, he believes, would be less than what the air quality numbers would be to discharge legally. So obviously that would put this to bed completely at that point if what we're receiving is less than, if we discharged it all up into the air, it'd be okay. So I guess, do you guys want me to pursue that and go to the air quality division, get that? I don't believe these are state law numbers. I think these are recommended numbers by the air quality division at this point. Mike was not sure if they were actual legal limits or what they're recommending at this point.
These are probably, if we're talking about air quality toxics, these are guidance numbers.
But
And just want to be clear, they're air quality PFAS numbers that's for a air stripper that's from in water that's coming into the system. It's not like a part per trillion they're not measuring this in the air, correct? This is the input in the water, right?
no, he's talking about what would be up in the air, what would be permissible if it got aerosoled and got up in the air. So what I'm saying is, he thinks our numbers that's in the water,
Okay.
if that all got turned into aerosol, it'd still be less
Got it.
than what would be allowed.
Okay, so if you could run a equation that says input to all of its aerosol, compare that with the Eagle's air tox standard.
Right, and I think what he was indicating that we would be below that number with the concentration coming in. So, which then obviously with the demisters, with that, could put this to bed. So if the board wants me to go ahead and follow that lead, I can follow that and try to get a more definite number. But I thought it was a very good indication that he had no reservation about our stuff. He had no.
That running that number isn't going to cost us anything, is it? I mean, it's just a math equation, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, I'm good with it, but I'm good with running that. Let's just put an exclamation point on the question and case closed. I'm personally, I'm good. I'm good with
We don't need
it.
a vote, and we can err on the cautious side. So-
All right, I will just get that number.
All right, good deal.
Thank you.
I know
Jeff.
we have a hard stop with a couple of our members, but we just have a couple quick things here. Update on the bylaws, just a
Okay,
brief.
that one, thank you, everybody, for your comments. All of those are bundled, shipped to the lawyers. They're redoing, we're working our stuff. They're gonna get it back to us. When they get it back to us, I'll send it all out to the board. And then we can look at it, and if we're good, vote on it at our next meeting, and then present it to city council. I think that's what our current bylaws say, that we can change the bylaws, and then we have to present it to the city council. So, we got delayed a little bit on that. We had some comments come in a little later. A lot of good comments on it, and I think, just working through the system, so.
Anybody have any comments on that? Okay. Section 13, public comments. Same rules as before, and also please state your name and where you reside from.
I think the reason I didn't state my name is because I pre-wrote it in. I'm not sure, and in my mind, I've checked that off. So I did pre-sign in an interest to save time. My name is Beth Ann Gould. I live in Herring Township, Cadillac, Michigan. Statement on behalf of Stacy Lyko. Good morning, board members. My name is Beth Ann Gould. Guess I didn't have to do that. I am here to read a statement on behalf of Stacy Lyko, a mother from our community who has endured an unimaginable injustice. Stacy's daughters, Maud and Tilda Klemp, born Abigail and Peyton, were taken from her family under circumstances built on misinformation and failures by Wexford County CPS and family court system. Despite Stacy later regaining custody of her children, her parental rights to Abigail and Peyton were permanently terminated. The girls were adopted into a home where they were later subjected to severe abuse so extreme that criminal charges have since been filed against the adoptive parents. This is not just Stacy's tragedy. This is a failure of the system meant to protect children. Stacy has chosen not to be here in person because the pain is still raw, but she asked this board to hear her voice through me. She does not ask you to fix her case. She knows you cannot. What she is asking is for your acknowledgement, for Cadillac's leaders to recognize that these injustices happened here, and to take a public stand for oversight, reform, and accountability in child protection. The board has the power to set the tone for what Cadillac represents. We will look the other way, or we will stand for justice, for the safety of children, and for the integrity of... Will we look the other way, or will we stand for justice, for the safety of children, and for the integrity of families? Stacy's fights every day, so no other family has to endure what hers has. She hopes you will join her in her fight. I have.
Thank you, Beth. Anyone else? Okay. Committee comments? Does anyone like to share anything overall? Yes, sir.
If I may, before the committee, sorry, button in here. You had asked last month to get those minutes on the website, which I did get those minutes. I did forget about getting the one up. That was the skip meeting, the meeting that we did not have the quorum for. I would like to report that has been since added to. So all that has been done. So I know when we had our planning one, I remembered that I forgot. So
Perfect. Okay. The next meeting is October 15th, same time of the day.
November,
I'm sorry.
November 15th?
that's not a
Yeah.
good day for
No,
me.
that's not gonna.
Yeah.
Why? Curious.
So
Because
it's
of the location of the week.
yes. And then that brings us to adjournment. If I could have a motion and support for that.
He's corrected it to
Are you gonna look at modifying that date, or? just
What-
looking
What
at-
is the issue?
Is
Oh.
October 15th is.
No,
November.
oh, I'm sorry.
You were saying
I'm sorry.
October 15th,
Me too. We are September.
I withdraw.
We're good? Okay. All right, I was trying to
Okay.
expedite this here so we can get everybody to leave, and I'm missing the obvious, and maybe I'm not missing the obvious.
Yeah.
So could I have
I was.
a motion of
I'll
support
make
to
a
adjourn?
motion.
I'll
All
support.
right, thank you. I appreciate your time, guys.
Mike, your passion is, we sympathize with your passion.
thanks, guys. Thanks, guys. Yep.